I really loved going to exhibitions of painting and photography. Then I started doing black and white photography in my backyard in a shed. I sort of thought when I was about 15 or 16 that I loved movies, I loved photography, so why don't I become a cinematographer? This is my fourth collaboration with Baz. We've basically had a working relationship for 20 years. The way that I can jump straight in working with him and knowing the process so that we already have that kind of shorthand. And what he does, which is fantastic, is gets me involved very early on. So I was at the audition, I was at Austin's audition taking photos, and when Austin was performing, just to look at the angles on his face. And so my job started right there. Baz and I would talk about the script. Very important that really I understand the story in his head before I start looking at the technicalities of how we produce a visual language. One of the first things I did was I took him into Panavision to meet Dan Sasaki. We talked to Dan about the film, and Baz was saying, you know, one thing I think is really important in this movie is that we show to an audience when the culture that Elvis existed in the 50s, 60s, 70s, American culture, and how we're going to represent that to an audience. That was a very big challenge for me. You know, you have to make a film that's accessible to everybody, but also exciting for a new audience. We look at reference, we looked at a lot of stills photography, and Baz had said to me, Mandy, we have to reproduce this because people are going to go online and watch it. I want them to be able to put it side by side to, you know that we reproduced it exactly. When I work with Baz, we're very, very well prepared. So by the time we get onto set, everybody knows what's happening. And everybody, like we would have dress rehearsals with a dolly grip. All my camera operators and I would walk around the sets looking at the existing footage and going, what lens do we think that is? And we'd work it out, we'd have a viewfinder. So I'd say to my team, you know, the camera has to dance with Austin. And when he flies, the camera's going to fly. And when he's in a dark place, the camera's going to observe. And so I had kind of these three sort of missions for everybody to become very conscious of as we were shooting each scene. I always work with Dan in this way at the beginning of a film, but this time Baz wanted to be part of that. You know, normally it's just me that goes in and then I sort of report back to the director and show them some things. He said, no, I want to see what Dan's going to show us. I want to, you know, be part of that information. We ended up going with the Spheros because we felt that they represented 50s and 60s and to be spherical. And then when he went to Vegas, we went anamorphic. And we ended up on the T-series expanded lenses. The colour palette tended to work on those lenses better. In the T-series, I had Dan all the old aberrations back into the lens. And I said, I want them to look like we shot it in the 70s. So he took them back to a 70s look so that an audience felt that huge shift in his career. Every film is different and I want a lens to be 100% correct for the images I'm trying to create. That is really a big part of how I shoot a movie.